Leginon tutorial, screening on TF20. On the F20 F416 camera monitor, open Leginon client. On the F20 Leginon monitor, open terminal and type in beta Leginon. Create a new session. Click Next. Find your project. Click Next. The name is automatically generated. We leave it as that. Under the holder, we're going to use the TF20 room temperature holder, but if you're using cryo, then you'd use the cryo holder. Click Next. This is where we put the description. We started off with F20 and then you can add whatever you need. When you're done, you can click Next. Double check that the image directory is correct. Click Next. We're going to be adding clients. So click Edit and add the TF20 D394. Add it with the plus sign. And then we're going to add the TF20 F416. And also plus. Press OK. Click Next. Double check that your C2 aperture is set to 100 microns and click Finish. Go to Application, select Run. The application we're going to be using is the MSI T2 3.3. The main is Leginon. Our camera is the 416. The scope is the 394. Click Run. Double check that the 416 camera monitor has Leginon open. In Presets Manager, hover over each icon until you see at the bottom Import presets from another session. The TEM should be Techni. Our digital camera should be the 416. Click Find. This will show you all the sessions in the past 20 days. Select the most recent session. Select all presets from that session and import. Select EN and make sure all of the preset information is correct. Click Done. Send EN to Scope. This is to cycle the presets and prevent any hysteresis. At this time, we can remove the shield from the cryo holder. Send Grid to Scope. We will center this preset. With the flue screen down, use the left trackball to center the beam. Repeat for each magnification. This is square. And whole. And EN exposure. Center over a hole. Send square to scope. Go to the Z focus node and simulate target. Select peak so that we can see the peak on the image. Make the image a little smaller by going to half mag. We want to make sure that the peak stays in the corner. You can switch between correlation and image. We are now at eccentric height. Go to grid targeting, click on settings, change the name for your atlas, make sure the radius is set to 0.0009 meters, apply, OK, calculate atlas, and press play to publish your atlas. In grid, you'll see each image being taken. In square targeting, you'll see your atlas being stitched together. Now that your atlas is complete, you can see all of your squares. Go to Preset Manager and send EN to Scope. We're going to perform a beam shift. Center your beam using manual function X and Y knobs on the hand panels. Import from Scope the beam shift and press Save. Now we will center the aperture. Go into diffraction mode on the hand panels. Insert the aperture. Using the knob, you can move it in X and Y directions and center it using the diffraction pattern as a reference. Make sure you take off diffraction mode. Go back to square targeting and try to find a broken square. Select Add Target for acquisition and select the broken square. Press play to submit the target. Hold targeting, go to settings, and allow user verification of selected targets. Make sure Queue Up Targets is also selected. Press OK. After Square is done processing the image, it will be sent to hold targeting. Remove targets by selecting Control, Shift, and right-click. We want to make sure that we're centered over actual vacuum by going to Navigation, sending Whole, Acquiring Image, and using the arrow to move the center of our image. We want to be over vacuum. You can adjust your movements. Now select EN and send to Scope. Acquire Image. Make note of the mean value. Go into ICE-T node, select Settings, Our C2 aperture is 100 microns, so we're going to use 392 for our ALS coefficient. And our vacuum intensity for exposure images will be that mean value. Click OK. In Presets Manager, on EN, click Dose. If the value is between 30 and 60, select Yes. Return to hole targeting. Make sure no acquisition targets or focus targets are on there. And click Play and Submit Queue. Go to Square Targeting. Place acquisition targets on your desired squares. Submit targets, play. Go to hole targeting. Measure the diameter of the hole. Remember this value. Click Template Settings and change the final template diameter to that value. Test, make sure you have bright white peaks. In Threshold Settings, test. OK. Blob Settings. You can change these values as you need. Test. OK. Next is Lattice Settings. Test. So these lattice points are a bit too close, so we're going to measure from the first hole to the third hole, skipping that center hole. And that diameter is going to go into the spacing area. Test and make sure that your lattice points are equally distanced away from each other. Now measure from a lattice point to the center of 4 holes. Remember the diameter and angling. Go into Acquisition Settings, delete the relative target under Acquisition, and add the new target based off of your measurement. Click OK. Delete the focus targets, and autofill using the same measurement. Test targeting. Make sure your targets look good. If they overlap too much, play with lattice spacing. This arrow allows you to place acquisition targets. You can remove the plus signs. You can remove the borders. This is all for your own display preferences. To manually target, you can remove all of the targets. Select acquisition and place your acquisitions where you desire. Be sure to place the focus target equidistant from all of the targets that you made. Press play to submit targets and submit queue. Let's go over to the Z focus node to make sure that we're at eccentric height. Again, look for the peak to be in the corner. You can also play with the correlation and the images. Once we're at eccentric height, hole will take an image. The image will be in exposure targeting, and here we can select our exposure targets. Measure the diameter of your hole, go to template settings, and change the final template diameter. Test. If there's no bright peaks, play with the number. Go higher or lower until you get it. Select OK. Next is threshold settings. Test. OK. Blob settings. Depending on how many exposures you want, that's how many blobs you'll put. Test. Make sure the 4 blobs are there. OK. Lattice settings. Test. If all lattice points do not show up, you can change the spacing to make sure they do. You can change radius and reference intensity if you need to. You can also change tolerance. Select OK. Measure from the lattice point to the center of the 4 holes. Remember the diameter and angling. Go into acquisition settings. Delete the focus targets that are there. Autofill and enter your measurements. Click OK. Test targeting. The acquisition target is at 0, 0 if you want it to be in the center of the hole. If you'd like the edge, you can measure and change that value. Click Lattice and you can see information about the mean intensity, mean thickness, and standard deviations. In acquisition settings, you can change the ice thickness threshold based off of these values. Click Play to submit your targets. You can observe in the focus node. Make sure that the peak is at the corner. You can also play with the correlation and image to make sure that you do achieve view-centric focus. In exposure, you'll see your exposure image. Once you optimize all of your thresholding, you can go into exposure targeting and remove the allow for user verification of selected targets. Let's go into Mozilla Firefox. Go to emgweb.nysbc.org. Log into your account. You can select Image Viewer. This will show you one magnification image at a time. You can also do 3-way viewer. This will show you 3 different magnifications at a time. You can show square, do whole, have EN, this helps you to know where each EN image is coming from on your grid. You can even look at the grid level and at Atlas. In the web viewer, you will find the ice thickness, your defocus and magnification, your pixel size, and dose. LOI will show you the remaining time for your queue. When you're done with your session, go to Application and Kill. File, and then Exit. Close Mozilla Firefox. All tabs. Close your terminal. And log out. Thank you for watching.